All right, man, what's going on, YouTube? We're going to be talking about DeepSeek today. We're going to be talking about the implications that it's had on the stock market. We're going to be talking about how, how this thing has changed the sentiment, around this AI race between the United States and China. It's caused a lot of questions to be raised in regards to the amount of capital that we have spent on infrastructure and on inferencing and training our large language models. It's raised a lot of questions on, are some of these companies' valuations too high? Have we overestimated the amount of capital that it was going to take and the amount of compute power that it was going to take in order to do what we plan to do in the space? Considering that DeepSeek, China has been able to create a large language model that can compete with OpenAI's ChatGPT and beat other LLMs in certain metrics and benchmarks. These are all valid questions. So we're going to watch this video. We're going to react to some of their commentary. I'll give you a little bit about my thoughts and how I feel about the situation with DeepSeek. And then I'm going to show you a very important detail that I haven't seen many people talk about. And it's a detail that I think is playing a big part of why we are seeing the market sentiment shift in regards to AI because of the number that we're seeing, that $5.6 million number that we're seeing on the headlines that, China allegedly spent to create this LLM, this open source LLM, which I believe that number is being, underestimated. They're only telling us a piece of the story, and I'll show you why in those in the technical data. But let's get into this video.
This is way overblown in the market in a sense that, listen, every major US tech company is developing chips. Every single one of them. So NVIDIA should have sold off a long time ago, given the fact it's still a double just in the last year.
Does NVIDIA have a lot of customers that are indeed developing their own chips? Yes. We've seen that with Amazon and they're trading them two chip and now it's in partnership with Apple and all of that. But even in spite of a lot of their customers developing their own chips, they still need NVIDIA's compute power. NVIDIA is still making the latest and greatest in GPUs. They're crushing it in the data center business. It doesn't matter that these other companies are developing their own chips. Everything still goes to NVIDIA at this point in time, and until that changes, NVIDIA still has a catalyst to be dominating the space. Granted, they don't have the the market share. I can't even say that. They do have the market share on lock, but we do have Broadcoms, who make ASICs, application specific chips. And you have, the other Magnificent Seven companies developing their own chips and all of that stuff. But all roads still lead through NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still the key player. Their chips have not reached the level that NVIDIA's chips are at, and if they did, then we would see a discrepancy in the amount of chips they are buying from NVIDIA, but instead we don't see that. We still see a lot of cash flow flowing into NVIDIA through these companies. We just had Mark Zuckerberg announce $65 billion investment into CapEx, and he's going to be buying a lot of NVIDIA chips. So NVIDIA is still the dominant player. So I can see where her sentiment comes from because when there's more options as far as chips go, everybody doesn't need the latest and greatest that NVIDIA offers. And there are other options, but the option, the option that everybody's choosing to go with, because we are very much in an innovation stage. Everybody's fighting for that top spot. People want the latest and greatest. NVIDIA offers the latest and greatest. They are still the number one player.
Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, AMD all have developed artificial intelligence chips or are developing. Number one. The Biden model, if they'd gotten a second term, and this is according to Mark Andreessen, was to make sure that AI was a function of government control. The Biden administration told Mark Andreessen and his partner, Ben Horowitz, there will only be two or three large AI companies. We are going to regulate and control those companies. There will be no startups.
I can believe this. You want to know why I can believe this? Because we've seen this type of behavior and attitude from the Biden administration towards crypto. We've seen the case with Ripple. We've seen the lack of regulatory clarity. We've seen the lack of adoption. We've seen the attacks made on crypto. We've seen the debanking of CEOs and their family members. We've seen that. We've seen how hostile they were towards crypto, and crypto is another sector, that that America and the United States should be pushing to be the leader of. And as you see President Trump coming in, making crypto, one of the things, one of the sectors that he wants us to be one of the leaders in. You see the strategic Bitcoin reserve, the digital stockpiles, and all the things that they're talking about. So if we've seen the Biden administration have this attitude with crypto, we can only imagine and only assume that they would have done the same thing with crypto. I mean, with AI. Now you may say, yeah, this apples and oranges, but you can't really say that because we've seen it starting to go down that path with Biden had already had, they had already put restrictions on NVIDIA and the type of chips that they were allowed to supply to China. And then on Biden's way out, we've seen you know, even stricter restrictions on what they could supply to China. And it got to a point to where NVIDIA is coming out and they're like, hey, you know, it's becoming too much. Not only are you hurting our business, you could be potentially hurting the space. You could be potentially hurting America in regards to our innovation and our place as one of the leaders in the space. Because if you tie us up with regulation and these restrictions, then you open up opportunity for another country, another company, a not America company, like a DeepSeek to come in and fill the void. We can't have that. We can't have that. And we've seen it going down that path. We've seen it going down that path. So I agree with what she's saying.
Unquote. That is why we should all praise to the high heavens that President Trump is now running this nation, because it was going to be economic fascism out of the Biden administration. But here's what I'm hearing from the tech world. The issue of deep DeepSeek and training this model at a fraction of the cost, what, under 6 million versus 100 million to $1 billion for American models. Well, the talk is that's because DeepSeek piggybacked on OpenAI and the large language model GPT-4. So
Yeah, I mean, there's been speculation that, they indeed did use outputs from OpenAI's ChatGPT in order to train this large language model. I've listened to interviews from developers and people, enthusiasts who have experimented with the DeepSeek large language model. And there's a lack of information. We don't know all the details. We don't know if there were other LLMs that were used to train this open source language model. We don't know what data sets, they use to train this LLM. We don't know. There's a lot of questions, and I think that also plays a role into why there's so much uncertainty because we don't know. We don't know exactly what chips they use to do this. We initially thought, okay, maybe they were using lesser NVIDIA chips, and now we're hearing reports that they could have potentially had 50,000 H100s, and we don't know. We don't know if they've been circumventing the system, getting more powerful chips. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions, and there's also a question as to the amount. How much did they pay to do this? That's even that's even under scrutiny. That's even in question because I don't believe they're being forthcoming with that number, and I'm not the only one who feels that way. But they indeed did, we walked so that they could run. They did use Chat GPT as one of the resources to be able to do what they did with this large language model.
Yeah, it should have been a fraction of the cost because you're essentially leveraging something that a great America and Sam Altman and his team had already created. And then, secondly, from commercial use, the big discussion in the Valley is, well, it's Chinese. And anything, if you use just the basic model that came out in December, you can't ask any questions or get any answers if it's about communism. So a new
Well, I mean, look, ChatGPT also had its biases when it first came out. It used to give some pretty wild replies. So we can expect some biases when it comes to a Chinese, large language model. But the even more important thing is if our government and some people down in Washington thought that TikTok was a matter of national security and it was a threat when it comes to American data. Would DeepSeek 3, or not DeepSeek 3, DeepSeek in general, would that not pose an even larger risk? And with that being said, would American companies and would our government even be allowing American companies to be lining up in droves to deploy and utilize Chinese AI tech? Would they be lining up to deploy that into their data clouds? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Going to use this if it's sending, if DeepSeek or these models, any that might come out, is transmitting data back to China.
Let's show
Hell no.
we got a full screen there of what happens if you ask DeepSeek about Tiananmen Square. You're not going to get a very satisfying answer if you're looking for the truth. You brought up something that's sort of the bee in my.
I mean, like I said, even our LLMs had questionable responses to some questions earlier on, so you can expect some bias. This isn't that big of a deal. It's just a talking point.
On it here, okay, on the Biden model of AI. And that was, let's get the FTC involved, let's get Lena Khan involved, and let's make sure that none of these guys can, combine or do deals in the market because we're concerned about monopoly. Well, it's fine to be concerned about monopoly until somebody comes along and says the way you do business is outmoded and we're going to do something different.
And that's the thing. We cannot have government interference, regulation, restrictions, stymieing and interfering with our innovation. And that's one of the things that I think Project Stargate is it's really going to create an ecosystem and a space where our top innovators can come together and do just that. Innovate. You have the money's not going to be a problem. $500 billion investment. You have some of the brightest minds in the space. Sam Altman, Larry Ellison. You're bringing in NVIDIA, ARM, Oracle. You're bringing in some of the biggest hitters in the space, and I think we're headed in the right direction. I think we're headed in the right direction because if we are indeed in competition with China, and China's making big advancements like this, we have to be able to compete. We have to be able to keep our technological edge. We have to be able to accelerate our efforts. And I think that's what Project Stargate is going to allow us to do, along with an administration who is pro AI and who is about America first and not tying up these companies with unnecessary regulations and restrictions.
They wanted a monopoly that was controlled by the Biden administration.
Yes.
And they almost destroyed crypto by debanking founders and even their families. And the biggest issue for America is that nobody for so long has really known how far along China is with its artificial intelligence program. And so, not having access to chips is one reason it wants Taiwan, China.
Yeah, and I feel like she mentioned TSM. I think that's another one of the power plays that we're doing with bringing TSM over here to Arizona and bringing some of that manufacturing over to the states. Granted, the manufacturing over in the states is limited for now. Just know it's not to the full capacity as it is out there actually in Taiwan, but it's a start. you know and this is one of the reasons why I don't believe that we've been taking China, you know not as serious as we should be. And we have been. That's why you have the AI, that's why you have the Chips Act, that's why you have Stargate, that's why you have these companies investing billions and billions of dollars into infrastructure, data centers, buying billions of dollars of semiconductors. you know we're doing what we can. We're doing what we can. And I'm just excited for the space. I'm excited for the sake. I'm excited for the space. I'm excited for where we're headed. And I think that, this is just, I always say this is a 12-round heavyweight bout. This is a 12-round heavyweight bout. China punched back with DeepSeek, but we haven't even got to the second half of this fight.
Right. And so this is a window into that. But I just say oh, it's so cheap for what DeepSeek did. I'm just saying it's over.
When they're piggybacking. But Charles, let's talk about the competition piece here, okay? Like, you don't win this race with sanctions and export controls. You win it by freeing up the most creative people in our marketplace. Right. To me, that's where President
Exactly. Exactly, and that's exactly what we're doing with DeepSeek. I mean, not DeepSeek. See, yeah, I'm so rattled with DeepSeek, man. We were hearing nothing about DeepSeek, DeepSeek, DeepSeek. I had my portfolio down. You know, it's been a crazy last 48 hours. It's been a crazy last 48 hours, and DeepSeek is all I've been hearing about. You'd have thought it was something new. I spoke about DeepSeek, like I said, back in December when V3 came out and R1 came out, and the market is just in an uproar. It's crazy.
Trump's got to plant his flag because Biden wasn't going to do that.
Well, we haven't even mentioned the Stargate project, which was at one point the biggest news of the week last week outside the inauguration.
Just a week ago? My gosh.
So, yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about it. And the idea of bringing in these folks as people who are going to help us dominate the world, not looking how to break up these companies, always intimidating them, always saber rattling. It's pretty clear that we really were sleepwalking. And it is a race. It is a race.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what he's saying. I don't believe that we were sleepwalking. We've put too much money into the space. You know, our companies have done everything they can to innovate. We've done our part. We've done our part. We've tried to put restrictions on China. We've tried to do everything we possibly could. But China's still going to do what they're going to do. China's still a very big opponent. They when you look at our companies, when you look at the financials, when you look at it, NVIDIA, China is responsible for a very big piece of their revenue. Just as much money as we're investing in the space, just as much energy and resources as we are putting into the space, China is indeed doing the same thing. We haven't slept on them. We haven't slept on them. I don't agree with the sentiment. But let's get into something that I wanted to show you guys that I haven't really seen many people talk about. And this is in regards to the amount of money that, this large language model was allegedly trained on. Allegedly, that number is about $5.6 million. And of course, as you know, it's costed us billions of dollars. We spent billions of dollars on infrastructure, this, that, the third, training our large language models, data sets, getting more data, all that kind of stuff. And if you want to go look up these documents yourself, you can go to arxiv.org and you can look up DeepSeek's technical data. But this is what we want to pay attention to. This is what we want to pay attention to. This is the training cost. This is the training cost in hours, in GPU hours. So we don't really care about that. This is what we really want to see. The number that we've seen all over the news, the number that we've seen plastic on the articles, the numbers that they're boasting. It only took us $5.576 million to train our open source LLM, and it took you guys billions of dollars, and we did it in about 2 months. But what they don't mention, the devil in the details, what you don't see announced is this. You don't see this announced. The aforementioned cost, the aforementioned cost, which is these: pre training, context extension, post training, the total. The aforementioned cost, including only the official training of DeepSeek version 3, excluding these. This is what we need to know. This is what we need to know. How much did you spend on what I'm about to mention? How much did you spend on this? Because you're leaving these costs out. DeepSeek, China, this number right here, this 5.576 million, is excluding the cost associated with prior research and ablation experiments on architecture, algorithms, or data. You see what I'm saying? So they're leaving out some of the costs associated with developing, training, research and development, all the things that they used and did, all of the resources that it took to build out, train, this open source large language model. They aren't being forthcoming with exactly what chips they use. And I don't expect them to. I don't expect them to. It's close to the chest, you know, it's expected. But what I'm telling you is don't fall for the headlines. Read, do your research, look for the context clues, look for the devil in the details. And because I don't see many people talking about this, I haven't seen people mention this on the news. I haven't really seen this on X. And I think a lot of people need to pull up this technical data, and we need to be asking questions. We need to be asking questions. And I'm definitely going to be doing more research myself on maybe looking at what our companies have spent on some of these costs in regards to research and experiments on architecture, algorithms, data, and all of that stuff, because those are the costs they're leaving out. Granted, could we get those costs and it still come out significantly cheaper than what we've spent? Yes, but they left it out for a reason. They left it out for a reason. They're not being transparent. I mean, you give us these figures, you give us the GPU hours. Why not give us the figures for this down here? You see what I'm saying? But I just wanted to go over this with you guys. You know, it's a hot topic. You know, it affected a lot of people's portfolios. It affected my portfolio. I doubled down on NVIDIA and some of my favorite semiconductor chip stocks. My portfolio is already back in the green. I know a lot of people took advantage of the opportunity. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments, man. Do you believe that DeepSeek has DeepSeek in China, that they've overtaken the United States as far as this AI race? Do you believe that, Sam Altman and OpenAI are in trouble? Do you believe that NVIDIA is in trouble? Do you believe that, it only took DeepSeek $5.576 million to do everything that they did in regards to this open source large language model? Do you think they're leaving some details out? Do you think they have access to some of our most advanced chips? Let me know in the comments, man. Thank you guys for tuning in, man. If you got any value out of this video, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. Help me grow, help me reach more people, help me, you know, be able to share this information with more people, man. Follow me on X at Investing OTC. I'm yapping all day. I'm yapping all day about stuff like this, about the markets, about stocks, about tech, all of this type of stuff. But tap in with your boy. Tap in with your boy, man. I'll see you on the next one.